Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're diving into something pretty interesting. You sent us some documents from Aditya Birla Real Estate Limited.
Okay.
It's their Q3 FY2025 earnings conference call transcript.
Right.
So we're going to try to unpack this and try to get a sense of where this major player in the Indian real estate market is headed.
Yeah, absolutely. And, this transcript is particularly interesting because it offers
Yeah.
glimpses into not just the company itself, but also some of the broader trends that we're seeing within the Indian real estate sector and even the global pulp and paper market.
Okay, so let's jump right into it. The first thing that struck me was this contrast in their financial performance.
Okay.
For the first 9 months of FY 2025, they report strong growth, 18% year-on-year increase in consolidated turnover,
Yeah.
a 7.5% EBITDA margin, and even a small net profit. But then if you look at Q3 specifically, things take a downturn. You've got a 4% decline in turnover, a very thin 1.9% EBITDA margin, and a net loss.
Yeah.
So what's going on here? Do they hit some sudden roadblock?
I think it's not so much a roadblock as a reflection of the different segments within their business.
Okay.
You've got the real estate side, which is showing robust performance, and then the pulp and paper segment,
Right.
which is facing some headwinds. And, Q3 is often a bit slower for real estate just because of seasonality.
Yeah, that's true.
So that might explain some of the discrepancy.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's easy to forget about those cyclical trends.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's break it down then, starting with the real estate segment. The transcript mentions strong overall sector performance,
Right.
particularly in the premium and luxury segments, and that seems to be driving Birla's success. They report a 257% year-on-year jump in booking value. Collections are up 175%.
Wow.
And revenue has surged by 117%. Those are some serious numbers. What is fueling this impressive growth?
Well, I think there are a few things at play. India is experiencing rising urbanization. You've got increased disposable income, and the government is making significant investments in infrastructure.
Right.
So this is creating really fertile ground for real estate development,
Makes sense.
especially in those premium and luxury segments where Birla is focusing.
So they're riding the wave of this, booming market,
Yeah,
but also strategically targeting a specific clientele,
exactly.
those who are seeking those high-end properties.
Yeah, and their project portfolio really reflects that strategy.
Okay.
They highlight developments like Birla Alokya in Bengaluru,
Okay.
Birla Vanya in Kalyan, and Birla Vanya Navya Phase 1 in Gurugram
Got it.
as major contributors to their revenue growth. And these are all projects that are designed to attract those discerning buyers who value those larger spaces, premium amenities, and that sense of exclusivity.
And it seems like they're doubling down on this approach
Yeah.
with plans for 6 new project launches in Q4 FY 2025, totaling a whopping 8,000 crore rupees worth of inventory.
Yeah.
Plus, they've acquired 70 acres in Boisar
Right.
for a plotted development project. So this signals that they're not just catering to that luxury market, but also trying to diversify their offerings.
It's a smart move, especially considering the potential risks associated with relying solely on that luxury segment. Susceptible to economic fluctuations.
Right.
So by diversifying, they're creating a more balanced, resilient portfolio.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Speaking of risks, we can't overlook the Supreme Court ruling on the Worli land.
Oh, right. Yeah.
This legal development could potentially throw a wrench in their plans.
Yeah. The court's decision impacts 6.31 acres of leased land
Okay.
in Worli West, and this could reduce their future development potential in that area
Wow.
by approximately 5 lakh square feet,
Okay.
which translates to a potential loss of 5,000 crore in booking potential.
That's not insignificant.
No, it's not.
But the company emphasizes that their flagship Birla Nayara project is unaffected,
Okay.
as it's on a different land parcel.
Got it.
And they're claiming that the Worli land was earmarked for development 3 to 4 years down the line anyway.
Okay.
So the immediate impact is minimized. But still, it makes you wonder how they will adapt to this unexpected turn of events.
Absolutely. This situation really highlights the importance of adaptability in the real estate market.
Yeah.
I mean, they're already exploring their legal options, but it also forces them to reassess their long-term strategy.
Right.
Do they seek alternative land? Do they adjust their development timeline? It'll be interesting to see how they navigate this.
It's definitely going to add a layer of complexity.
Yeah.
But I am curious to explore how this will impact their overall strategy,
Right.
especially given the challenges that they're facing in their other business, pulp and paper.
Yes, let's transition to the pulp and paper segment, which presents a starkly different picture.
Yeah, the transcript paints a pretty gloomy outlook for that.
It does.
Declining prices for paperboard and tissue,
Uh-huh.
all due to weak domestic demand, growing inventory,
Right.
and rising input costs like wood and imported pulp.
Yeah, they're caught in a classic supply-demand squeeze
They are.
with rising expenses. Not a good recipe for profitability.
No, not at all. And this is reflected in their financial performance, average net sales realization,
Yeah.
which basically means the price.
And one key focus is cost reduction.
Makes sense.
For instance, they're experimenting with bagasse pulp,
Okay.
which is a byproduct of sugarcane processing in their board production to lower expenses.
Interesting.
They're also increasing their use of bamboo, which is a more sustainable
Right.
and often more affordable material.
So it sounds like they're getting creative and exploring every avenue to reduce costs.
Exactly. And it's not just about cutting costs. They're also implementing strategic initiatives to try to strengthen their market position.
Okay.
They're conducting management workshops, revamping their product portfolio, and developing specific strategies for the copier and business-to-consumer segments.
So they're actively trying to adapt and innovate, both in terms of cost management and market positioning.
They are.
It's almost like they're running two completely separate companies under one roof.
Right.
One is thriving,
Yeah.
while the other is fighting for survival.
Yeah.
It begs the question, could they potentially leverage their success in real estate to bolster their struggling pulp and paper business?
That's a very intriguing question, and one that we'll delve into as we explore their financials and overall strategic outlook in more detail.
Okay, so we've got a tale of two businesses here, one with impressive growth and the other grappling with some pretty significant challenges. I'm really curious to see how all of this comes together in the bigger picture. Let's take a deeper dive into their financials.
That's
now.
it.
So we've seen how Aditya Birla Real Estate is kind of experiencing both remarkable success and significant challenges in their different business segments.
Right.
So let's take a closer look at their financials and try to see how these contrasting fortunes are playing out.
Yeah, good point. And the transcript doesn't give us a complete picture of their financials, but it does offer some interesting insights.
Okay.
For instance, they mentioned that their net debt is currently around 4,000 crore rupees,
Okay.
which is roughly a 1-to-1 ratio to their equity.
Okay. For those of us who aren't financial whizzes, can you break that down a little bit?
Sure.
What does a 1-to-1 debt-to-equity ratio tell us about their financial health?
Essentially, it means that they're using a significant amount of borrowed money to finance their operations.
Okay.
So a higher debt-to-equity ratio typically indicates higher financial risk
Makes sense.
because the company has more obligations to creditors.
Right.
Now, a 1-to-1 ratio isn't necessarily a red flag,
Okay.
especially in a growth-oriented industry like real estate.
Uh-huh.
But it does suggest that they're leveraging their balance sheet to fuel their ambitious expansion plans.
So it's a calculated risk.
Yes.
They're betting on their ability to generate enough revenue
Right.
from these new projects to
Yeah.
service that debt.
And the transcript does highlight their focus on cash flow generation.
Okay.
They've already collected over 1,600 crore rupees in the first 9 months of FY 2025,
Wow.
which exceeds their collections for the entire previous year.
So that's a reassuring sign.
It is.
Strong cash flow is vital, especially given how much debt they're carrying.
It is.
But can they sustain this momentum, especially as they continue to invest so heavily in new projects?
That's the key question. And they project another 1,000 to 1,200 crore in collections for the remaining quarter.
Okay.
Plus, they have around 500 crore in positive net cash flow from their operational projects.
Okay, so it indicates they're in a relatively healthy position.
Yeah, I think so.
It sounds like they're walking a tightrope, but so far they're managing to keep their balance.
Right.
But we can't ignore the fact that their pulp and paper business is struggling.
Yeah.
Earlier, we touched on the idea of them leveraging their real estate success to support this flagging segment.
Right.
How could that actually work?
Well, there are several potential avenues.
Yep.
One option is to use some of the profits from real estate to invest in modernizing their pulp and paper facilities.
Okay.
This could help them become more efficient and competitive.
So essentially use the cash cow to feed the underdog.
In a way, yes. Another possibility is to restructure the pulp and paper business,
Uh-huh.
perhaps by focusing on higher margin product lines or expanding their export efforts to tap into new markets.
Could they even consider scaling back their pulp and paper operations altogether?
Yeah.
To free up capital for Even more aggressive expansion in real estate?
It's certainly a possibility, although one they haven't explicitly mentioned in the transcript.
Okay.
They haven't given any indication of abandoning the segment, at least for now.
Right.
But if these challenges persist and profitability doesn't improve,
Yeah.
they might be forced to make some tough choices.
It's a classic dilemma trying to balance short-term profitability with long-term growth.
Yeah, it is.
They need to carefully consider their options and determine which path aligns best with their overall strategy.
And that's where things get really interesting. The transcript provides some clues about their future outlook, but it also leaves us with a lot of questions.
Okay, so we've got a company with a pretty complex financial picture,
We do.
facing strategic decisions that could really impact their future. Let's shift gears now and look at what they're saying about their outlook for the coming year.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, so we've explored Aditya Birla Real Estate Limited's performance and financials, and it's clear they're at a crossroads. What does the transcript tell us about their plans for the coming year?
Well, they're sending kind of mixed signals. On the one hand, they're incredibly optimistic about the real estate sector. They're banking on continued urbanization, rising incomes, and government infrastructure investments
Right.
to fuel further growth.
Yeah.
And with their robust project pipeline and their focus on those high-demand, premium, and luxury segments, they seem well-positioned to capitalize on that.
That makes sense given their recent performance in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, they're understandably cautious about the pulp and paper segment.
Right. They're predicting a subdued volume and pricing outlook for Q4 with continued pressure from those low-cost imports we discussed earlier.
Right.
They even mentioned the possibility of postponing some planned capital expenditures in pulp and paper due to the challenging market conditions.
So they're facing a tough strategic decision. Do they go all in on real estate where they're seeing success, or try to find a way to revive the pulp and paper business?
It's a real balancing act. They need to weigh the potential rewards of further expansion in real estate against the risks of neglecting or even divesting from their pulp and paper operations.
This brings us back to a question we've been circling around. Could they leverage their real estate wins to support their pulp and paper segment?
Potentially, but it depends on their long-term vision. They could channel some real estate profits towards modernizing pulp and paper facilities, making them more efficient and competitive. Or they could focus on restructuring that business, targeting higher margin products, or expanding their export efforts.
It's a fascinating dilemma.
Sure.
And honestly, the transcript doesn't give us a clear answer. What do you think their most likely course of action will be?
Well, based on what we've seen, I'd say they're leaning towards becoming a primarily real estate-focused company. They're demonstrating a keen understanding of that market and a real knack for adapting to its dynamics. Their recent diversification into plotted development and emphasis on sustainability in their projects further supports this idea.
That's a compelling argument, especially considering the headwinds they're facing in pulp and paper. But even if they do shift their primary focus, they can't completely ignore that segment.
Absolutely. They'll need to make strategic decisions about how to manage the pulp and paper business, whether that means finding a way to make it profitable again, scaling it back, or ultimately divesting.
It's a reminder that business is rarely static. It's a dynamic process of adapting to changing circumstances, seizing opportunities, and making tough choices.
Precisely. And this deep dive into Aditya Birla Real Estate Limited has given us a front-row seat to that process.
We've seen their impressive growth in real estate, the challenges they're facing in the pulp and paper market, and the strategic decisions they're grappling with.
It's offered a glimpse into not just one company, but the broader trends shaping the Indian real estate sector and the global pulp and paper industry.
And perhaps most importantly, it's highlighted the importance of adaptability, innovation, and strategic thinking in navigating the complex world of business.
Well said. It's a reminder that even with all the data and analysis in the world, there's always an element of uncertainty. And that's what keeps things interesting.
Absolutely. A big thank you to you, our expert, for guiding us through this complex financial landscape. And to you, our listener, thank you for joining us on the deep dive. We hope this exploration has given you some food for thought. Until next time, keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.